Notre-Dame de Paris, the story of an eternal cathedral. In the very heart of Paris, on the Ile de la Cité, stands Notre-Dame de Paris, the Cathedral of Our Lady. This is not just a building. It is a symbol, a legend, the soul of the city. For nearly 900 years, the cathedral has witnessed France's triumphs and tragedies. It has seen coronations and revolutions, poetry and war, fire and hope, and now, its story, as it truly is. From the first stone to the present day. In the year 1163, when Europe was still driven by crusades and great Gothic architecture was only beginning to flourish, Maurice de Sully, Bishop of Paris, made a bold decision to build something magnificent. A new cathedral on the site of the old Basilica of St. Stephen. He envisioned a temple that wouldn't just inspire, but would lift the soul upward, toward heaven. The foundation of Notre Dame was laid in the presence of King Louis VII and Pope Alexander III. It was not just a religious act. It was a statement of prestige, power, and faith. Construction took time, more than 180 years. The cathedral became the product of not one generation, but an entire era. Architects changed, technologies evolved, styles transformed. But the idea remained: to build a house of God that would surpass all others. Notre Dame was a pioneer. For the first time in French construction history, flying buttresses were used, exterior arches that supported the massive walls. This allowed for large stained glass windows, turning light into colorful prayers. The most famous of these are the 3 rose windows, especially the central one, 13 meters in diameter. When light passes through it, the cathedral interior becomes a kind of spiritual cosmos. Notre Dame is poetry in stone. Stained glass, statues, arches, all working together like music. The gargoyles perched on its walls are not just decoration, but rainwater spouts and symbols of protection. The cathedral is more than a building. It is a book, one written without words. From its very beginnings, the cathedral became a center of national significance. Ceremonies were held there. Royal marriages were celebrated. Decrees were announced. Prayers were lifted up for kings and kingdoms. In 1431, Henry VI of England was crowned here during the 100 Years' War. In 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte held his imperial coronation in Notre Dame and famously crowned himself, showing that his power came not from the Pope, but from himself. When the French Revolution erupted in 1789, churches all over the country were desecrated. Notre Dame suffered especially harshly. Revolutionaries saw it as a symbol of monarchy, oppression, and superstition. The statues of biblical kings adorning the western facade were decapitated, mistaken for French monarchs. The interior was looted. Religious relics were destroyed. The cathedral was deconsecrated and repurposed, first as the Temple of Reason, then as a warehouse for wine and grain. It was a moment when Notre Dame could have been lost forever. But destiny had other plans. In 1831, young writer Victor Hugo published a novel that would forever change the fate of the cathedral. Notre-Dame de Paris, known in English as The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It was more than a tale of Quasimodo, the lonely bell ringer, and Esmeralda, the gypsy dancer. It was a passionate outcry in defense of architectural heritage. Hugo wrote with urgency and grief, and the public listened. Hugo wrote with urgency and grief, and the public listened. Thanks to the novel's popularity, the government allocated funds for restoration. Architect Eugène Viollet-le-Duc led the project. He not only restored what had been destroyed, he reimagined it. He added a new spire, decorative elements, and famous gargoyles. Notre Dame was reborn. In the 20th century, the cathedral survived both world wars. During the Nazi occupation of Paris, Notre Dame remained untouched. Even in darkness, its sacred presence was respected. After the war, Notre Dame became a symbol of resilience and rebirth. Presidents visited. Popes gave sermons. Tourists came in the millions. It became a place of pilgrimage, art, inspiration, and above all, sound. The mighty organ, choirs, murmured prayers, and the iconic bells. Especially the bells, 10 in total. They rang out for holidays, crises, and moments of national remembrance. On April 15, 2019, the world held its breath. At 6:20 p.m., a fire broke out beneath the roof of Notre Dame. Within hours, the roof was ablaze. The iconic spire, a symbol of 19th century restoration, collapsed in a ball of flame. Drone footage, phone videos, and news streams showed it in real time. A city and the world watched helplessly. It felt as if history itself was burning. Not just a structure, but memory, identity, soul. And yet, a miracle. The facade stood. The bell towers endured. Most of the stained glass was spared. Priceless relics, including the crown of thorns, were rescued. And above all, people responded. In the first 24 hours, over $850 million was pledged from presidents, artists, billionaires, and ordinary citizens. The world refused to let Notre Dame fall. Reconstruction efforts began almost immediately. In the first months, scaffolding was stabilized, charred wood removed, and fragile stone reinforced. Craftsmen, engineers, and historians worked hand in hand to restore what time and fire had damaged. The decision was clear. Rebuild Notre Dame exactly as it was before the fire. Same design, same materials. Even the wood for the new roof was gathered from ancient oak forests across France. The goal? To reopen the cathedral to the world by December 2024, just in time for the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris. Notre Dame is more than sacred space. It is living memory, a witness to history, a symbol of French identity and endurance, a place where faith and culture meet. It reminds us, some things fade, but others endure. History may burn, but it cannot be erased, not if we remember it, not if we rebuild it. Notre Dame burned, but it did not fall, because Notre Dame lives in each of us, in every visitor who watched the sunset from the Seine, in everyone who once stood in awe beneath its rose windows, in anyone who has ever listened to the silence of stone. Notre Dame is not just a building. It is the heart of Paris. It is the bell that rings through time. It is a prayer written in stone. It is what does not die.